Welcome back, everybody, to Salty Runback's continued coverage of the CLOL Championship. Our big-time series, top 6, UST versus Northwood, was all St. Thomas in game number 1. But Northwood are not going to switch to that blue side where they'll have the ability to get a coveted pick at that B1 spot. What are you looking for there if you're Northwood?
B1 Kindred. B1 Kindred.
I like it. Unless it gets banned.
Potentially. Interesting as well now. Some adaptations already coming out through the draft. Skarner joining the red side again. Also, Aurelion Soul immediately taken away here for Robbie Bob. So, wondering if they're going to want to try to index more onto some of those lower range mid laners that Reppy does tend to play. Again, Talia, the Orianna, the Galio. Two of those champions, Orianna and Galio, taken away in the last game.
We saw that Northwood had to ban away the Varus on red side as well. Now you're on the blue side. I think that's the creme de la creme when it comes to Enthralled, when he's able to play that Varus. I know that's like such a base take because everybody can play Varus really well, but this guy's popped off the most with that Varus. The Kindred's still up, though, Alk. I feel like UST, I feel like you got to ban it, but it's actually Northwood that ended up banning it.
That's a ton of respect coming out from RBM and the gamers over there, because I don't think they would be super confident to first pick the Kindred, but the fact that RBM is showing a lot of like, okay, Kenvi, you kind of put the hands on me last game. I'm gonna make sure that we just don't have that happen again. Also, just giving carry champions over to Kenvi is so dangerous. He has been known for his entire career on these kinds of champions, so it's only right that we're kind of giving him a little bit of praise there. Varus taken away, turns into a Talia first pick here for Reppy. Okay. Yet again, hey, look. Things happen. First games can happen. That game 1, I just want to see them actually connect with Reppy. Reppy being a little bit more part of the team. Because it just felt like constantly Kenvi was invading. We saw a lot coming out from Kenvi and Robbie Bob together moving as a duo. So I would actually love to see how RBM and Reppy can kind of get that synergy up a little bit here in game 2.
You know, you talk about synergy, though. Robbie Bob was masterful on the Ahri. I would have really loved to have seen a Vi R2 here. For Kenvi, because I think our Vi Ahri is a deadly mid-jungle synergy. But
sure.
I get not necessarily want to show that Vi with Northwood having an ability to counter a lot of it, and you already do have that Talia, like you talked about earlier, really good against those movement champions. So they'll get Porsche back on the Cassante, and the Senna going to be locked in here for Northwood. And I remember us talking after the broadcast, awaiting this matchup, you were talking about how you wish Northwood maybe would try some lane swapping. The Senna's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I was so with Porsche taking the Cassante blind. I'm kind of indexing towards that jungle matchup which we were talking about, right? The fact that they want to kind of give Kenvi a favorable matchup. Maybe they can look for something and kind of force Northwood to show a little bit more. And Porsche is obviously a really, really good Cassante, as most of our top laners here are in the Collegiate Championship. So wondering what they're going to go for in bottom lane. Kenvi immediately steps up the Xin Zhao now to kind of show an aggressive look. Although here for Northwood, if they are going to go for the lane swap, you have to be knowing that the bottom lane is going to go for something aggressive. This Senna Tahm Kench lane is going to be really, really focused on making sure they can make it through the laning phase, but they also are a pair that doesn't do a ton of damage, but also they are very resilient within their own right. So, again, have a lot of questions here for Northwood. I don't think they have a lot of setup pieces to make sure that they can get through the later parts of the game, but I do want to see them have some kind of early driver, whether that be in the jungle position or we look maybe towards something towards top side. I just don't expect it because Izo's never been that kind of player.
Yeah, that's just not in his DNA. So what does the adaptation look like for Northwood right now? UST, they're just pitching RBM's pool a ton here. They get rid of the Vi, they get rid of the Viego he played last game. Now, in the first series we got to see with Northwood against Western, he ended that series with what he called his favorite champion to play. I think this would be a decent spot for it if he wanted to. The Lilia go for it potentially here, but we're talking about staples. Array, I mean, how good was his Aphelios yesterday?
Yeah. Ray on Aphelios, he's made his name on this champion years and years now. So he was really, really excellent up against Slew yesterday, and I expect nothing less from him. I think the Lilia angle is going to be a bit problematic if they were going to end up going for it, just because there's a Xin Zhao on the enemy team. There's a lot of champions that can end up picking you out, and so you have to be a really far ahead Lilia to be able to get away with a lot of some of the disgusting things you can do with this champion. So Sejuani is going to be the pick here for RBM.
Ooh.
Gwen here for Izo.
So
this
Northwood,
could be a swap.
Yeah, so Izo already has a Sejuani top game from the last series. It's the old adage. I mean, this is the Izo adage. I'm gonna coin it now. is any tank jungler, you should just expect it to be going into his hands. So we'll have to see when we get on the Rift, but this just fits the MO of Northwood that they would stick the tank with ISO, and then they give RBM an AP carry in the jungle.
This reminds me a lot of RBM. RBM, so we got confirmation from production. It is going to be a Gwen jungle. This is a champion that back on MSU, when we saw RBM, he was actually playing a lot of this champion. He kind of showed up. There was a moment, I think it was either during top 8 or in top 16, where he had a Gwen jungle moment, and he was a very big focus for that team. And so now, again, he's got a Sejuani behind him. He's got a Senna as well if we get later into the game. This is going to be a game where we are looking, instead of the carry potential coming out from someone like Kenvi, who, while on Xin Zhao will have some of those aggressive looks, it is going to be all on both Enthralled and RBM, but RBM definitely a much larger amount of, I would say, the carry weight on him with this Gwen pick.
Yeah, without a doubt here. And on the other side, you talked about like the Xin Zhao is some damage. It's not a ton of carry. It's not like a King Droid. Ahri is like in that same kind of boat, right? Like she can really carry, but her damage-wise isn't like the big bad sort of AP carry threat. It's really on Array as like that main scaling carry to go side by side with this Senna as the range builds, and like you talked about with that Gwen. So also I do like this Sejuani because you got 2 other melees besides you. So gank, you have that melee benefit from RBM coming in, and then later in the game you have a Tahm Kench and a Gwen as well. Let's see how it plays out, Ulk.
Okay, Northwood now coming into game 2, a game down here in our best of 5. St. Thomas with a resilient and resounding Game 1 victory. Northwood kind of changing up a little bit of their strategy, and into the opponents, I actually think that this Gwen gets so much value. Against someone like the Aphelios and the Ahri, it's very difficult for them to deal damage or land some of their crowd control. And up against Xin Zhao and something like the Cassante, is very difficult for them to deal with, not only because of the Hollowed Miss, but just her entire champion kit is very, very versatile, makes it very difficult. She gets so much combat power thanks to the way that her kit works and those 1,000 cuts. So invading really early on, they have a much stronger level 1, especially if Sejuani is present. And Senna makes it very difficult to try to get any meaningful damage off. She has fleet footwork, has heal, has her Q. So as a melee champion, you're feeling really, really good. Even Enthralled kind of buying into this playing around RBM strategy.
I was curious if we would get some lane swap shenanigans, because that's what every time you see at this point in the current meta, stack ups or soft side, it's where you might see if they stay out of vision. You could throw the bot lane into the lane swap, but it looks like everything has settled down some, except for that ward. Once again, Kenvi will be spotted somewhat out on his beginning clear here. But if you're RBM, I feel like you're kind of fine just knowing where he is so that you can power farm up on this Gwen like we talked about.
Exactly. As long as both junglers know where they are, vision is just so important. Information is name of the game, especially in the early game where lanes can be a lot more volatile than what we would expect. So both of them starting on the top side, moving down into bottom side. Kenvi, I wonder if he is going to try to look for something up on the top side on with a level 2 Cassante. Maybe there's something you could do. You could try to force out an early back from ISO and put Porsche's lane in a good state. But since they do know that he's now starting his 3rd camp, Kenvi has some options. He can go for that top side option we were just talking about, or try to meet RBM really early on in the bottom side jungle, especially with red buff. Could be very potent for them to be able to find a 2v2 kill or using summoners.
Certainly something to watch out for, and I think it's important to remember that for Northwood, it's been a lot of success in this weekend so far. They won 6 games in a row after dropping game 1 to Western. Good bounce back there against Western, but got to bring it back into focus. UST is a whole different demon. And how much resolve can this Northwood team have down 0-1 in a series like this?
So Robbie needs to let this wave push in just a little bit more. There's also another wave coming here.
Oh, the flash charm, though. Robbie grabs him. Reppy flashes, but the knockup is too much. Wind becomes lightning. Guarantees an electric first blood for Kenvi.
Fantastic charm coming out from Robbie Bob. He has been showing up on so many different picks. Really, for Robbie, his entire kind of career has been built on some of these control mages and really being able to play some of those facilitating mids like the Gallia we saw in Game 1. But his Ahri has been super clean this weekend. That one win versus Slew in their first game, he performed excellently. He was one of the driving factors why they were able to get back into that game. And now here, already finding an early advantage for himself, getting his jungler set up as well, giving him the kill. It just feels like when you're a jungler with Robbie, he is just that jungle whisperer.
Well, only thing you're whispering topside here, Alk, is the sound of ghosts. As Porsche went for a bit of a proxy, maybe able to just run right out there away from Izo. But it's what we talked about with this USC team and Robbie Bob specifically, and it's what makes him such a great player to have as a teammate in my mind. The way he is just willing to sacrifice for facilitation for his jungler, something that he talked about, I know, a lot, is so integral to the success on any team he's played on.
Exactly. Porsche right there. For people who might be confused, I mean, it's just Cassante, right? Like, Cassante can just, like, proxy farm, specifically up against tanks, because he does have that ability to be very tanky, while also having a lot of damage that typically tanks don't have access to. And by manner of the fact that he pulled two separate people up there, RBM and Reppy started to ghost towards top lane and look for potentially catching out on Porsche, does buy a little bit of a timer here. Now RBM, he took his recall, he goes back up top side, they find Enthralled.
Another flash to set up a CC early here from UST, but it's just a flash for flash match here. Get it off the set. It might be a regank angle. It doesn't have to burn the heal. And here comes Kenvi out of the fog, trying to get the knockup onto Enthrall. Do they have enough damage to follow through? They do. Array's able to grab that kill, and there's no way for Clyde to find the turn. UST are just as synced together as they've been all tournament long.
And they make that play without a single Renata Q. I thought they were going to try to go for the handshake or something, but had been saving it that entire time. Enthralled, recognizing the wave's in a really bad position. We need to be able to grab this, but there's a jungler nearby. Do we try to end up going for this? Oh my god, Robbie Bob steals the big one, so RBM not super happy about this, but a very big win there, yet again for UST, getting two different lanes ahead. One in the mid lane, with Robbie Bob being able to find that kill alongside his jungler, and then bottom side, getting the Senna and Tom Kench down really early. Steel's feeling really good, especially for Array, who has been such a consistent performer for this team. It doesn't matter whether or not the other team members are kind of having some fun, someone like Kenvi, or if Robbie Bob gets outplayed in the mid lane. Array has been so consistent time and time again, and a lot of that, again, coming from his experience, playing for so long, and playing on a multitude of different teams.
So many teams. Ton of success here for Array, especially in this game like you're talking about. The gold lead is really ballooned because the fact you got the early kill on this Aphelios, and he's into a Tom Kench that is farming. So it really just balloons this early gold lead that Kenvi's going to continue to push onto these Void Grubs, something he's been eyeing all series long.
Okay, so Kenvi getting at least two. I wonder if instead of getting this third one, he's going to do something similar that we've seen all tournament long, which is kind of just finish them and finish two, look for something, and kind of finish up some of your other jungle, but instead, opts for going for this bottom side, or finishing up all of these grubs. He knows that they can play with a lot of impunity in top side, thanks to just, again, the matchup in top lane. Cassante can't ignore these tanks.
And it's what we talked about coming in. We were curious how Porsche would adapt his play style up against Izo, but we'll have to hold that as a gank. Could be coming across here. RBM does not have ultimate. Array very low, but he's got the chakrams doing a ton of damage. Enthralled push back. They'll get the Abyssal Dive knockup, though, and that's just Array dead. RBM getting the kill as well. Huge there for Northwood.
They were trying to clear out vision to make sure that protecting Kenvi's camps to make sure there's no jungle gank, but Array was really far up there. And in a moment where finally, I mean, Array kind of makes a small positioning error. Also, his guns are not great. He finished on that last kill on bottom lane with blue and white, which is not a combo that you typically tend to see. You don't do a ton of damage, but the blue should have just been used there to clear out the rest of the wave, get this wave to crash. And instead what's going to happen here is this wave is actually going to stop the wave from fully hitting the turret. Senna is going to still pick up a lot of this farm. And you got to be feeling good if you're Northwood. Getting that kill for RBM feels nice.
They don't know Kenvi's there, though, but they're still going to commit onto Porsche. The Weaver's Wall going to stop the all-out for going too far. Can Reppy get the kill, though? The seismic shove's going to miss.
Oh, my
God. Porsche is able to get out, and here comes Robbie Bob dashing in, grabs the charm onto Reppy. Kenvi able to find one. Robbie leads up the second. Robbie on a tearing rampage under the turret. It's 3 kills back to St. Thomas.
And they don't get anybody else. Porsche lives there. You would have thought with the all-out reducing his resistances that maybe he could have got it, but Reppy tries to roam for that play. They don't even find the kill onto Kennedy either. So big Triumph procs coming out from Robbie Bob if that's what they have in their rune page. Either way, Robbie Bob and Kenvi play that so excellently. Porsche on thin razor margins there, able to get out of that play as well. A very big win for UST and something that hampers the game plan for Northwood so hard. They were trying to get their jungler ahead, and now they're consistently getting outplayed on a lot of these fights. That gold lead is only going to continue to grow for them. You
can see the vision there. It's still there, present in that topside jungle for Northwood. I like the play there from them all because they weren't expecting Kenvi to be there. They had no vision, but the Weaver's Wall to cut off Porsche, it was the right setup, but it's what we've been seeing all series long so far. UST just have them, down to a T with what their plays are looking like.
Unfortunately, Robbie Bob is kind of fathering Reppy in this series. Reppy is just getting owned back to back. He is playing the Taliyah matchup, which again, in this instance, he is an immobile mage playing against Ahri, who is able to get right into her face, gets the charm, and if they ever land it, you get damage like this, especially with electrocute procs. It's so hard for Reppy to trade, but now we've seen two separate games where Reppy hasn't been super included with his team, has not been able to deal that same amount of damage as someone like Robbie has, and it's becoming a problem for Northwood.
Well, problem here for UST could be in the bot side. Abyssal dive forward for Clyde. They once again didn't expect Kenvi to be down here, though, and that's going to say alarm bells down. Hostile takeover just to make sure Trevor can keep the team away. Kenvi on a killing spree. And if Thrall isn't careful enough, they might find even more.
Exactly. They just want to get turret plates. Kenvi also knows that his bot lane's in a winning position, so should just be clear to move on forward. A great job from UST, and unfortunately there for Clyde, kind of sending it. And again, Robbie Bob lands it.
Gotta give you credit, Ulk. You called it. One charm means a lot of problems for Reppy, and finally with the Spirit Rush back up, Robbie Bob grabs another. This guy is on a tear for GOATs in the CLOL Championship this year.
Robbie Bob, so when talking to him, we did a little bit of our CLOL files. If you were watching yesterday, you got to see that on the stream. But Robbie Bob, he's always talking about how Shogo being brought to the program definitely helped their chances of winning, but when you win as a team, when you win in League of Legends, it is about the 5v5. It's about what you can do as a team. As Porsche, they had to bring up 4 members for him.
Ulk, am I watching the Slew series now again? Because this is what Porsche was dealing with all yesterday.
Yep. There's not much for us to talk about there. This is going to be them contesting for early grubs. If UST are able to grab at least one of these, they can start to go for the Void Mites, but instead focusing on the re-entrance into mid. They're going to stop Northwood from being able to enter into this choke. I think it's a little tough here. So Porsche can teleport for this play, but there's no Renata Glass ultimate here.
No Spirit Rush as well for Robbie. They still like their odds. The handshake lands on the Clyde. He's thrown into the team. He's the Tom Kench, tanky, able to flash out. Still has the Grey Helmet he wants. And Kenvi going forward. Now into RBM. Already poked very, very low. Kenvi finds the first. The rest of UST showing up as well. Izo caught in the fray. The front line burns down. Porsche is zoning the carries spectacularly. It's University St. Thomas again. Make me sound like a broken record with how well they play fight after fight. They don't even care if they're diving under the turret. It's 4 straight kills. Making a 5th as Enthralled is hounded and slain down for a Robbie Bob triple.
What is this? It's just so cool to see Robbie Bob pop off on an Ahri performance 2 days in a row. Kind of making a name for himself on some of these different mages in the mid lane. Him and Kenvi are just firing away. They're doing so well in this series. Both of them in tandem. And in a different kind of showing than what we've seen in years past, when they had someone like Dardoch originally for this roster, when they had Kitsuo with these two, they were playing different setups. Back in 2022, it was Ivern Rengar with him and Kitsuo. In Jungle last year, they were playing some different stuff. They were playing stuff like this Zinzao, but we didn't get to necessarily see stuff like the Ahri here. So St. Thomas and this mid laner, who has been such a legacy player for them in the program, doing really, really well in this game, too, and just this series as a whole. This entire weekend, Robbie Bob's play has been really excellent.
This entire weekend, outside of Maryville, St. Thomas have looked like the most professional team here in the championships, at least for now. And part of that for me is, Game 1 was certainly UST side. This one feels even more lopsided with the point we're at.
Exactly. They've accentuated their gold lead a lot earlier. They've made very, very consistent plays into mid lane. You already know you have insurance policy with the bottom lane. You know that Array is going to be a very good AD carry, and with a Renata in his back pocket, it just feels so difficult to ever find that kill, right? Because you also have the bailout when it comes to team fights. So let's find Enthralled.
Yep. Clyde gets his missile dive off. When he becomes lightning, does not hit Enthralled, and that Mist is making sure the dash doesn't come across. Does he? The Topo strikes knockback. Enthralled, though, should be safe here, just trying to get as many souls and damage down as he can. Little win there for Northwood.
Small win, but
Kinda.
nothing.
Not really.
Nothing at all. Like, they survived. That's it. This entire time, they're focusing so much on the mid lane play. They've also had to now recall Reppy. So this entire time, Robbie gets that top tier 1. Then he pushes into top tier 2 as well, getting all of these waves. Such a dominant showing here, and it looks like Northwood kind of lost as to what they want to try to do. The fact that this bot lane is still here and trying to grab for this turret,
Oh my god.
it's a bit much. Like, they're just so desperate here.
Yeah, I mean, you can't die for plates. They do have a raid pin on the other side, though. Good seismic jump. Finally, Reppy's able to find a good angle. RBM gets that kill. That hostile takeover from Trevor, though, is just as massive to chunk down the members, make them turn on themselves, Trevor.
He was trying to get a bailout. He's trying to save Array, and he's like, all right, screw it, man. If I can't save him, I'm just going to save the second GOAT on my team. All right, Kenvi, come get this bailout. Let's try to take care of this team. And they just wiped them on their side of the jungle. Northwood, they don't look as coordinated as they did yesterday. They look like they're getting outclassed in a lot of their lanes. Part of the reason why we saw Northwood really step up, oh my god, bro.
Not the dab, bro. Is that the dab? Oh,
He's just spinning on him. And now Porsche gets the solo onto Enthralled.
Oh, okay.
Close. Enthralled gets out, but it's his flash, and it's just like, cool, you got away, you didn't get solo killed. If that's the bare minimum that we're expecting from Northwood, UST just close out this series.
And the bare minimum for Porsche on those side lanes you're talking about is, hey, just don't die, right? That's all you have to do. We're getting the rest of the map
That's what the Casante's there for. You can also outplay those situations, right?
Yeah, and what has he done with his bare minimum? Oh, he's picked up a solo kill and nearly got a second, so
Yeah.
that's just the game state we're in.
He's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Does he land the charm here?
What?
No, he charms a minion. Robbie, that's some hidden RE tech that I don't know about, mainly because it didn't work. Reppy's alive.
You know what?
He gets a pass,
Robbie,
right? He's had a series and a weekend already.
He's already played 2 different RE games. Maybe he just saw the ghost of Reppy's past. You know, he saw the Echo ult coming through, and he was like, okay, maybe I can land it on there, but nothing. Look, honestly, they didn't lose much, to be fair, from that play.
If we're staying locked into the Reppy memes, maybe Reppy just blended in with the minions.
True. He is the same height as those minions, so maybe you're onto something here. You're cooking.
I'm sorry, Reppy, all right? I had to go for it. As we'll see UST potentially getting pushed out here from the jungle, looking for the flank. Kenvi's already pretty low here, but they still like their engage because the Moonlight Vigil with a Ray on the Infernum gun is just too much. The hostile takeover going to grab Enthralled and hold him in place. The front line burn in an instant once more. There goes Enthralled. If you thought game 1 was around, UST had something coming for you.
It's 16 minutes, and they're playing so aggressively. Reppy, even with the charm not landing there, doesn't matter. They get taken out. They can't even use the Weaver's Wall. We're going to see a Drift King coming in from Kenvi. It is 20-3, and St. Thomas, your returning champions, back-to-back, are just making it look easy on their road to top 6.
Yeah, Kenvi's starting to have a little bit of fun with it. Drifting around. Oh, can he get around? He's in the fountain. Oh, God, Kenvi gives the shutdown. But that's just how ahead St. Thomas are right now. And they're still looking to brawl it out here as Clyde has to flash away with his gray health, being the only thing that saves him. The wave down does give an angle for Northwood to go in. They get the Glacial Prison down, but Porsche does not carry. He ignores it, interrupts it, and throws RBM back to base.
What a beautiful play coming out from Porsche there. Individually, he just uses an amazing Cassante moment, which is just become unstoppable. Oh!
He pulled the dead body of Clyde, and he's going to die for it. Porsche did not calculate for that one. Robbie Bob also gets stuns up by a good stun from Reppy, but it does not matter. He's getting the Spirit Rush reset.
Charm.
Array went untouched, and another charm. Robbie Bob is deathless in 2 dominating RE games for UST.
There it is. They are playing with their food. They're so far ahead. We're almost 15,000 gold up, which we expect in round of 32. And in some of the matchups for round of 16, I mean, Array, you just got caught backing on a ward. That's going to be the one shutdown going over to Northwood, but it's still not enough. UST making a strong statement as to why everybody saw them as potentially being top 4, as potentially making a 3-peat, never before done here in the Collegiate Championship.
Looking for the GOAT status, and they're doing it with their mid laner that's looking to represent that GOAT status himself as well. Kenvi, though, jumped on in the Dragon, but nobody's watching Robbie Bob.
Jesus,
and his damage is just evisceration by definition. Goodbye topside for Northwood. Here comes Clyde as well. Robbie Bob gets another great charm onto Enthralled, forces the Devourer out. Enthralled able to get over the wall, but gets hand shook back into the UST team. It is just poetry in motion with University of St. Thomas in these fights.
The Celts are taking over. They're making sure that if anybody had any doubts, if anybody thought, well, the SLU win was just a really good day, playing up against the Northwood team, they're showing them, they're like, okay, you had your dark horse run. Northwood, you had your time in the spotlight. Let's close it out. Let's clap you a little bit here. Porsche, he's going to sit here. He's going to get his Demolish proc. They're going to get a turret, or they're going to get the second Dragon of the series at 18.5 minutes. You would have thought with the gold lead like this, we're a little bit further on into the game, but UST, they are making sure to dominate in this one.
Domination may be putting it lightly at the point we're at, and they're just having fun going mid lane, looking to brawl. We got side lanes pushing, and here comes the 16th brawl that Porsche wants into. Izo, the first one to get hounded. Kenvi up close and personal, trying to get onto Enthralled, who does not have his summoners, and there goes Enthralled. There goes Izo. It's a wipe. University of St. Thomas look like the team to beat on this side of the bracket, and they're going to get it done in under 21 minutes in Game 2.
There we go. Let's see if they get it under 20. That would be a really, really impressive feat. Something that you could show a lot of dangerous stuff here. It's just Reppy and Clyde. RBM's full H. Okay, RBM is doing blue buff. He is fully zoomed out on this one.
Yeah, and it is going to hit that. Oh, I was wrong.
Oh my God!
I gave them a minute. It was under 19.5. Dare I say the quickest win of the CLOL Championship?
Probably the quickest win, especially in top 8. That has to be an incredibly dominant game. UST, for Northwood, it's been great. It's been great here in the upper bracket. We'll see you on lower bracket next week, because I am just not seeing enough from them to really show that they even have a chance in this series. UST, I thought maybe we could see some excellent team fights. I would think that playing around Enthralled, but Senna doesn't really give you that ability to do that. And sorry for all the Northwood voters. Yanni's looking real good right now. Of course, my fiance's looking real good right there with the 3-0. I'm feeling a little foolish. Maybe I gotta scratch out. Gotta get my expo marker, turn that into a 0 around the 1.
Yeah, it's that's how rough it is. Axeman not sitting in a great spot. Quacks, I love where your heart's at, especially how we've gotten to watch Northwood. But these predictions are looking rough. That's the fun of predictions. It's important to talk about really quickly before we go to break here, Alk. Something that, the veterancy, UST, they're showing it, right? Like, they are treating this like a warm-up game for what's to come. And Northwood, they're just starting to scatter and break at the seams.
Exactly. I'm wondering what their game plan coming into Game 3 is, just because, again, they are in the upper bracket. They do have an extra life going into the championship, but you would want to just stay in the upper bracket as soon as possible. All
right, well, we'll get to hear more about UST here, as you mentioned it a bit earlier, Alk. The CLOL Files, the great interview you got to do with Rumback Bob. That's what we're going to key up here for you guys as we go on to break. But for Northwood on the other side of this intermission, it is put up or shut up time if you like your spot in the winner's bracket, down 0-2.